Alright, David Harry here, and in this episode of A Coffee with David, I'm going to be asking the question, GoPro, that Hero 9 of yours, the one you've just released, you know the size of it, what the fuck is that all about? Now just before I get into this, a little bit of added value for this video, here's a story for you. It's called The Loudmouth Scouser and the Three Bears. Here's the end of the story. So Mummy Bear has a taste of the coffee. Oh, it's a little bit too hot for me. I think I will wait for a little while and let it cool down. Daddy Bear has a go at the coffee. Oh yeah, that's just right. That's excellent coffee. Then Baby Bear has a go at the coffee. Oh, that's horrible. Ooh, it tastes horrible. It doesn't have any milk. Oh, shut the f*** up, Baby Bear, you moaning little prick. Okay, so getting into this then. What it is, the last couple of days, I've been doing a lot of fooling around with the 9 and the 8. In fact, I've been doing more fooling around than actually proper videos, vlogs and unboxings. My vlogs and unboxings are actually running late at the moment because the thing for me, I'm more interested in seeing if I can kind of like suggest anything to people to do with like, well, especially a microphone, because if anyone's familiar with my stuff, they'll know that I modified the mic system on the media mod for the 8, and it definitely is way better than what that system is. So what it was, I was trying to find myself a way of like getting decent audio. It's still not the best it could be because the mic capsule that I've had to use is not the best. I had to use it because of size. But rather than having to like put a cold shoe on, blah, blah, you know, microphones and all that, I wanted something small and tiny. So far, this has been brilliant for me. I love the Hero 8. Now, I don't love the crashing and all that stuff, but my particular Hero 8 is great with this mic on. So the last couple of days, I've been fooling around to see what I can do with this one. That's the media mod for the 9. Now, I'm not going to get into that right now because that's a definite other video. But unfortunately, I would seriously have to smash this up in order to get into it because GoPro would appear to have made it a bit Dave-proof, like, you know. So I'm going to have to think a bit harder about this one because that one was hard enough. This one is going to be really hard. Anyway, so, like I said, I've been trying to think of some practical stuff to do with these, things to suggest to people and stuff like that. So in the process of doing that, I've definitely kind of become a lot more aware of some of the differences between them. Hence the question, did GoPro really need to make the 9 bigger? Now, here's a couple of points that I'll just get into, right? And then, you know, I don't need to drag this out, actually, because initially, you know, people might think, oh, Dave's not going to like what they've done. You know, because to be honest, I'm always in support and favour of the end user, never the manufacturer. But in this instance, I'd say, not even on balance, the end result here is I do believe GoPro had to go bigger with it, right? Now, here's the reasons why, or why I think. So first off, the battery, right? Now, the battery is obviously going to have to be a higher capacity for a number of reasons with the 9. More processing is being done with the stabilization and running at 5K. That's 5K processing. So the CPU, GPU combination, whatever it's using, its processor has to work harder. So all that kind of needs more power. Then there's the sensor that's going to give the 5K. So there's that then. There might well be other elements in there that have to increase as well because of the new resolutions and such. So yes, more power. Now, at first I thought to myself, well, do you know what? There must be technologies out there at the moment whereby the power that's in there could be put into a battery that size. I mean, I'm not going to do close-ups here. We know what these all are. But I was thinking, so that's roughly, I think, about a third more power or so than what the small battery is. But then I thought to myself, there's got to be technologies out there whereby you could get that power inside something that small. And then I thought, and if there was, I bet you GoPro users would not be unhappy at all if GoPro turned around and said, listen, we're going to release a new battery. It's going to cost you more money, and maybe a fair bit more money, in fact, because, you know, they've got to recoup R&D and all this stuff. So GoPro turn on and they go, we're going to we're going to bring a new battery out, and it's primarily designed for a new camera we're going to bring out, which is the 9. Let's assume at this point the 9 is physically the same size as the 8, yeah? So they bring out this new battery, and then what that means is that every GoPro user back down to the 5 could then buy into a new battery, which would be much higher capacity, well, you know, a third or so more capacity, and give them more recording time and stuff like that. Now, at that point, if that's what GoPro would have done, and then let's just say the Hero 9 had come out at the same size as the 8, but had much, you know, like much better power than the 8, or its native battery would have done on the 8, but the same size. If GoPro would have done that and just bumped the price up on the 9 a little bit, just because they were accommodating for this new battery design, if that had happened, I think everybody would actually have gone, that's brilliant, that's a great idea. Because don't forget, like I say, from the 8 backwards down to the 5, people could then have bought into a new, more powerful battery, which would just be the same size, which is all good because it just means less batteries to travel with and stuff like that. And even if you don't mind the amount of batteries you travel with, let's face it, once this is inside a media mod, or whether you've got some other rigging going on with earlier GoPros, it's a real pain to have to start pulling batteries out once you're like, you're down to low power and stuff. So the longer you can carry on taking, these things are better like that. Anyways, so at first I thought, great, they could have done that with the batteries, and maybe they could have done, but here's the thing. There's things about the 9 which I just don't think could have happened inside the same body as the 8. Now, let me just be clear here as well. There are no massive differences between the 8 and the 9. And indeed, if you've got an 8 and you're thinking about going to the 9, I would strongly suggest you think twice about that. I don't think for normal day-to-day use and vlogging, I just don't think there's enough in it to justify that. Because don't forget, you also would then have to upgrade the media mod, and there's going to be problems with that. I'll try and get to the media mod stuff as well in a sec. But anyway, so going from that to that is not a huge deal, I don't think, for 8 users. It would be for 5, 6, 7 users, but then 5, 6, 7 users, I would probably recommend you go for an 8. Now, the 8 is bound to be a bit cheaper, and to be honest, the 8 is a fantastic thing. They're all fantastic when they work properly. There's always the problem of bugs and stuff like that, but if you kind of just eliminate all that out of the equation, or if indeed, in fact, no, you don't eliminate that out of the equation. If you're a GoPro user, you accept that these things happen. So once you've accepted that, it becomes a level playing field, right? So once you do that, the 8 for me is definitely the go-to GoPro now. The 9 is brilliant. It's going to be great for certain users and stuff. However, like I say, for vloggy stuff and all the rest of it. And don't forget, right now, I checked before and I've been checking. See the media mod for the 8? Doesn't seem to be any stock issues with that as well at GoPro. So if you buy the 8 and buy the media mod, you're straight in there with your vlogging setup. Not the same for the 9. I'll get to the media mod on the 9 in a minute. Anyways, yeah, so I'm digressing here, but what I'm trying to do there is just impress upon people they don't have to go from the 8 to the 9 unless there's a particular function that they're dead into. Someone like me has to do it, of course, because obviously I use them all the time and I do videos about them, so I have to get suckered into all this stuff. Anyways, so let me just get back to the 9 again and why it's the size it is. I think it's the size it is. So, the new sensor, for instance. Now, the new sensor might be a couple of mil bigger, I don't know. But nonetheless, it is a more higher resolution sensor. Now, 2 things with that. It's going to require more power. And it's also going to heat up more as well. Sensors do actually heat quite a bit. Larger sensors on some of the big cameras, they have to have fan assistance and stuff to cool them down and things like that. So you can't forget how much energy is going to be used at the sensor. And that's only the sensor element there. Then there's all the stuff behind it. But just while we're on the sensor, like I say, it may even be the exact same size, I don't know. But regardless, its power Its power efficiency isn't going to be the question. It's just the fact that it requires more power. And right now, we're all in a position where we're probably thinking, well, hold on, these things should be becoming more efficient and stuff, and we should be getting longer times out of these things. And that is the case, actually. A lot of stuff is becoming a lot more efficient. But as soon as you start asking the same space to do more stuff, there's your efficiency gone by comparison to the same space doing less, as in this one. Okay, so that's the sensor part of it, I think. Then after the sensor, we've got the processor. Now, from what I understand, it's the exact same processor that's in there. Nonetheless, that processor, I would imagine, is getting asked to do more than what it would do in there, because it's going to have to deal with the 5K image data from the sensor. And then once it starts doing its stabilization, that processor must be at its edge now. It's been around for what, since the 6, was it? So that processor's being asked to do a lot. So I would say the processor, regardless of how more efficient maybe the algorithms got for stabilization and stuff, I would say the processor is going to be working harder. So there's more energy to do that as well. Also, I don't know if they've increased the amount of RAM in here. Maybe they have, because they might be using more RAM to buffer for the stabilizer, for the bigger sensor and stuff like that, and to get the better stabilization, unless they've just come up with a much better algorithm to do it, which doesn't require a ton of kind of like cache RAM and stuff, whatever. I don't know enough about that to know and make a proper comment on it. But I would hazard a guess anyway that something in there is going to have been bumped a bit more as far as the usage of RAM is concerned, and also RAM will also heat up. Now, I'm getting at a lot of things here to do with heat, right? Because this is probably one of the main reasons why it's bigger. Then we get to the back, and then we've got a new screen. Now, granted, proportion to the body, the screen is not actually any bigger than the one on the 8, like proportionally. I mean, it might be by a millimeter or something, but it's roughly the same ratio, screen to body ratio. However, because it has all gotten bigger, the actual physical, viewable screen area is definitely more as well. Now, I don't know whether or not they've increased the resolution. I should really have checked that, shouldn't I, before I did this video? I don't think they've increased the resolution. They may have done, but even if they haven't, even if it was the same resolution, because the thing itself is bigger, the pixels would go bigger, hence requiring more energy again, more power. Now, we might only be talking minuscule amounts, but all these things add up, and also they generate more heat as well. Bigger screens will generally generate more heat compared to a similar technology screen that's smaller. You got to remember, some screens are just better for doing these things, but we're talking kind of like for like here. So when you're talking about one thing being the same as another but just bigger, you'll generally start having more heat, where we're talking about the likes of the screens and stuff. So overall, what we've got in here is a lot of stuff which requires more energy, and as a byproduct will generate more heat. And again, getting back to what I said before, although things do, the technology does progress and things get better and more efficient, the problem is when you then start asking it to do more, it has to rebalance again back to the same efficiency level. So it's all well and good saying something is more efficient. Well, it'd be more efficient if you're only asking it to do the same thing it had been doing. But when you start asking more of it, then that efficiency is lost, and it goes back to being something that has to do more again, hence more power, more heat, and all the rest of it. Anyways, I think hopefully I've explained this as best as I can. So I think if GoPro even could have physically put all that in there, which I think they definitely could have done, I just don't think that it could have worked because of the heat and also the power requirements, assuming that they couldn't have done a small battery but with higher capacity. If they'd have shoved all that in there, I think it would have been something that would have just kept on breaking. And here's the reason why I'm saying this now. Because in my use of both of these things, and you have to remember, I use this in 5K, right? This definitely heats up more than this, and it does it quicker. In fact, when I go outdoors with my 8, I'm never really aware of any of the heat issues with it. It does have them, I appreciate that, and I know for some people it becomes a serious problem. For me, it's not something that's been a concern really. I noticed it immediately with this though. Now, there is also the possibility that mine might be, I don't know, I'm not saying it's broke or not, but what I'm saying is I might just have one that might not be as efficient with the heat and stuff as another one. Don't take this the wrong way. I've not just suggested that this is damaged, by the way. I'm not saying that. All I'm doing is trying to err on the side of caution, just to say maybe mine's not the best example of a Hero 9. I'm assuming it is, and if it is, then they definitely heat up more than what the 8 does, and it's, from what I could see, maybe a bit disproportionate as well. So, given that there's more heat generated at the higher resolutions, when you're in when you're in 1080 and 2.7K and such, maybe that's not a concern. Maybe it's all cool, and well, I say cool, I mean cool in temperature and just cool, right? Maybe other people can let me know that, but in 5K, definitely it ramps it all up a bit more, gets a bit more, a bit more heat going on and all the rest of it. So once again, size-wise, I just don't think that could have worked in there. Okay, so I think that'll probably sum it up really with this. Now, just quickly as well, I just want to just lean back into that whole thing about should you go to a 9 from an 8? And I'm really trying to be dead fair with these assessments here. Unless there's something like you desperately need that replacement glass off the front to be there, but still I wouldn't recommend paying all that money just for that one thing. Or if indeed you want to have that new lens that's going to come out, if you think that the stabilization is going to be any better. And here's another quick thing, sorry, I know I always digress with these things, you have to forgive me for this, but my digressions are always to do with what I'm talking about, and hopefully there's something in there that helps people. That, and I just love talking and I can't shut me trap. Now here's the thing, stabilization between these. Now, it may well be better at the lower resolutions with this. Now, I've done the stabilization with this at 5K, and 5K on this and 4K on this stabilization. I'm telling you right now, for most vlogging where you're not like jumping around and being a complete loon, I would say they are so similar as to not really be any different, right? Now, other people are going to show you stabilization tests, and I most certainly will do, and I'll show that this is better, but that's only if I drop its resolution down and then start fooling around and jumping around like a big weirdo. Of course this will be better. However, if you plan on using this at 5K, the stabilization at 5K just being normal, walking around doing regular vloggy stuff or just regular day-to-day stuff, I doubt very much you're going to get the benefits of it. I don't think you'll see it that easily. In which case then you got to say, well, yeah, what's the difference there? There is, but is it that noticeable? Also, I tried going to boost on this at 5K. I didn't really see that much in it, to be honest. I think them functions are going to just look better or be more noticeable once you start coming down. And also then you got that new Horizon stuff. I'm not going to get into it, but that is a difference from here as well. So maybe that's the kind of thing you're into. But I'm just trying to impress upon people right now, there are only so many differences realistically here to look at. And I would say that is higher resolution 5K. I've already made mention of that. I will definitely do tests about it. It probably isn't even worth it for most people. Is to me, for the reasons why I mentioned earlier on. I do this stuff all the time, use it all the time, do videos about these things. Of course, I have to use that. Other stuff in there, very few things. Removable screen, I don't even think it records that much longer than one of these once they're both flat out. Because obviously, like I say, bigger battery but more power usage in this. So yeah, bottom line, would I recommend the upgrade? I really, really wouldn't, right? Like I say, it's down to you. If you got the money and you can just splurge it, then fine. But if money's tight and stuff, or indeed if you're just happy with your Hero 8 for vlogging, here's the thing. I've already done 2 vlogs since I've had this, and I used the 8, right? So that'll give you an idea of something there. And also, one quick last thing, and I know I mentioned it before, but right now I can't find the media mod for the 9 anywhere. So if you've got an 8 system with the media mod and you've got a nice little vlogging setup and you want to replicate that with a 9, I think you're going to be like bang out of luck for some time with that. And it wouldn't surprise me, although I hope it isn't the case, but it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing issues with stock and stuff again with this thing as we did with the original media mod. Right, that's enough of that. Battery's gonna go. I'm gonna lose all my footage if I don't go. I'm David Harry. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.